Dr. Lee, you talked about different processes that we can go through in helping youth and their social emotional needs. One of them was helping the youth feel feelings,
Yep.
but then the next step was to act, and you honed in on that a little bit. Can you talk about what it is? You mentioned the permission giving for them to act on that. What's that about?
What is that about? A couple of thoughts. One is we want to give youth an opportunity to feel. And I think that's a really good message that we're giving them, that feelings are okay. We're going to validate them. We're going to hold them, contain them, and figure out a way to regulate them. Yeah. And that's the part, learning how to regulate. I don't want youth, anybody, doesn't matter what your age is, to think that feeling is just for the sake of feeling. And that's the end goal, right? That you feel and that's all you do. Because there is a point when all you're doing is feeling.
Yeah. Where does that go?
Where does it go? At some point,
Yeah.
something needs to shift. And, you know, I'm a clinician, and I often say to folks, you know, therapy is a great place to go and do some of this feeling. But if that's all we're doing is just feeling, one, it's going to be an expensive way for me to witness you feeling. But also, what are we going to do about this self-awareness and these feelings to shift the way you're navigating the world and how you do that, right? There needs to be the act part.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just feeling for feeling's sake.
Yeah.
And the act part, I think it's learning about what do I do with these feelings? How do I regulate them? How do I take care of them? How do I soften them? How do I talk about them? These are all really important skills that young people can learn as they're feeling their feelings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that feelings is not a scary thing. That is not something that I just have to kind of bare my teeth and withstand. Okay, I'll just wait till the feeling goes away. No, I can do something about those feelings.
Yeah.
And I think about experiences. I think about mastery experiences that we have to allow young folks, developmentally appropriately so, in this stage of life, they are trying to do things on their own. This is around the time when kids are learning how to drive on their own, right? Like they're doing a lot of independence building away from their parents. They're supposed to. This is the age to do it. And we as parents, adults in the lives of these young folks, our job is to create opportunities for them to have successful experiences or failures and then learn from them. But they have to try. Yeah. And what I'm responding to is a lot of families and parents who are trying to do for their children so that their kids don't have to experience negative emotions, because that's our job as parents, to protect and do for. Yeah. But at some point, you're now robbing them the opportunity to do something for themselves and learn that they can. Because remember, as adolescents, they're trying to figure out, can I do this by myself? Right, away from mom and dad, parents, and can I do this for myself? And what would that look like? Let them build, let them try, and they may fumble. And that's okay. Then you tweak and you go back out there again. But anytime you're doing for your child, it may be an opportunity, a learning opportunity that you're taking from them.
Yeah. And for them to learn that the feelings is, having a feeling is good and honest and appropriate, but it's not the be all and end all.
Yes.
It's not the final step in this process, right?
That's right.
And that there is more after that. And in fact, after they act, there's then you talk about the recovery piece, right?
That's right.
So what's that? Tell me about that.
Yeah. You know, living life is hard.
Yeah.
Trying new things, learning a new skill set is hard. And the way that we recover is to rest and to reflect and to say, how did that go? What was a little debrief, if you will? Yeah. How was that for you? How did it go? What might you do differently next time? What did you learn this time? What went well? What didn't? And being able to do that is how you build those muscles, right? Let me give you an example, and maybe we'll be able to talk about both of these permissions. You know, I work in a boarding school. School year has just started. We have a lot of students who's being dropped off by their parents, and there's a lot of feelings,
of course,
for the kids and for the parents. And I can't tell you how often I hear from phone calls from anxious, frustrated parents who are saying, no one's inviting my child to go eat. They're just in their room and they're anxious and they're hungry. How come no one's going to invite my child? And there's a layer of that that's true. Like,
Sure.
our upperclassmen should be doing a better job welcoming new ones. Yes, I get that, right?
Yeah.
But there's also something very problematic if you think your child is just going to sit there and wait for someone to come
Yeah.
and fix it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I want that young person to struggle a little bit with that and say, what are my options right now?
Yep.
I can sit here and wait for an upperclassman to invite me to dining hall, or I can go. I can invite somebody else to go with me. I can, right? In those moments will be a moment of like, what are my options?
Yeah.
And let's try some of that. How did it go?
Right.
What went well? What
Right.
surprised you? What was hard?
Yeah.
And we talk about it and build for next time.
Yeah.
But there's something very dangerous about not giving our children permission to act on their options and just waiting for things to be fixed for them.
Yeah.
Again, to me, it's a robbed opportunity.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And I guess I use that word permission in thinking about adult and youth.
Yeah.
And there's a natural power dynamic there.
Yep.
And perhaps it is about giving permission. When I think about dealing with my children, I am giving them permission to, sure, you can ride your bike, or sure, you can go, go. And at some point, that positionality switches, because what you're trying to teach young folks, especially adolescents, is that they're giving themselves permission. Not waiting for you per se, but that they have now been taught that they can.
Yeah.
They can feel, they can act, they can rest, and they can give to themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what we essentially want.
Sure. But it takes a journey to get there, right? So, we were talking about safe space a few minutes ago. You set up that space both physically and emotionally so that there can be this sort of learning cultivated, so that eventually, yes, they can give themselves that kind of permission, but it takes some work to get there.
Yes, and the visual that came to my mind, because I mentioned earlier about learning to drive, is that eventually, as parents, we're trying to get ourselves out of the driver's seat,
Right.
and in an enjoyable passenger side seat. That we would want to take a ride with our children, and we would want to, right? But that they're driving now.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Right.